For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the rules of the House and House Resolution 821, I call up H.R. 6429, the STEM Jobs Act of 2012, as amended, and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 6429, a bill to amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to promote innovation, investment, and research in the United States, to eliminate the diversity immigrant program, and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the House Resolution 821, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of the Rules Committee Print 112-34, modified by the amendment printed in the House Report 112-697, is adopted. The bill as amended is considered read. The gentleman from California, Mr. Issa, and the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Conyers, each will control 45 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days within which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous materials on House Resolution 6429 as amended under current consideration.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize myself for an opening statement. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the STEM fields, this is long overdue. This is not the first time we've considered it, but as we go into the lame duck session, I'd like the American people to understand why this is so important. For more than 2 years, the national campaigns have talked in terms of jobs. STEM means jobs, Mr. Speaker. Many years ago, Thomas Friedman wrote about an experience of being a speaker at a commencement, and he watched one after another individuals cross receiving their master's and doctorate degrees in science, in math, in engineering. The amazing thing is, one after another had names that were almost impossible to pronounce in some cases, and clearly the majority of these engineers and scientists came from other countries and were being told they must return to them. He made the statement in his op-ed that, in fact, at the end, rather than just a diploma, they should be given a diploma and a green card. Mr. Speaker, I agree with Thomas Friedman on this subject. For each person we welcome to America with one of these high degrees, we create jobs, net jobs. We create opportunity for expansion of the kinds of businesses that, in fact, Americans are prepared to work in, but often we do not have enough engineers, scientists, or math professionals. This shortage, particularly at the master's and doctorate level, is well documented. This is not something in which Republicans and Democrats are on different sides. This is something in which we agree to it. There is some controversy, as you might imagine, and there always is. Some would cling to a selective lottery that allows 55,000 immigrants to come for no reason other than they asked and they got a lottery. Those 55,000 are, in fact, an example of a great many of our immigrants. Only 5% of immigration visas today are based on skills of education and other capacities, only 5%. Although I support other categories of immigration, including those fleeing the tyranny of their own countries, those, in fact, who would be killed if they remained or tortured. I certainly agree that family reunification continues to be an important part of our immigration system. But today, what we're dealing with is the ability to make a profound difference of 55,000 opportunity jobs. We often hear about opportunity scholarships, Mr. Speaker. Opportunity jobs is what we're talking about today. Jobs that are in great demand. In this high unemployment area, STEM jobs can be not just below 4, but in some cases below 2%. The truth is, if you're qualified and you have these kinds of advanced degrees, the jobs are far greater than the qualified applicants. 3/4 of likely voters support strongly this type of legislation. And I believe, properly understood, that for each STEM immigration visa, the fact that you would gain net jobs, that by bringing in these 55,000, we could drop hundreds of thousands of people from the unemployment rolls because they could become employed. The benefit to our economy is undeniable. The controversy here today will simply be, are we willing to act and act now? Many say that little good happens in a lame duck session. In this case, I believe, both in the House and hopefully in the Senate, we can in fact say not true. Some of the groups that have strongly come out in support of this legislation include the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers, an area of shortage, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, an area of commerce, Compete America, the Information Technology Industry Association, and the Society of Human Resource Management, and I might say the industry I came from, the Consumer Electronics Association, has long supported these kinds of investments in America. This bill has a large support of the majority of the House of Representatives and on a bipartisan basis. Last September, by an overwhelming vote, more than 100 votes to spare, STEM jobs passed under suspension. To protect American jobs, employers who hire STEM graduates must advertise for the position before they can ask for them. They must, in fact, make their jobs available to all existing American workers. And in fact, these protections have long meant that after all that advertising, employers often enter the H-1B, attempt to get a temporary worker. But in fact, for permanent opportunities and permanent growth, we should have more permanent jobs than simply a guest technology worker. More importantly, I think it's universally recognized by both my colleagues on the other side and my colleagues that if you have somebody who's going to benefit America, having them benefit America for a short time and then go home and in fact compete against America is not in America's best interest. In fact, the Assistant Secretary of State for Visa Services has testified that the diversity fraud in the system that we're attempting to take these slots from is so huge as to in fact make it effectively worthless. In those hearings and many others, we've determined that we do have an opportunity on a net basis, no net new immigrants, but in fact a selection of the ones that Americans want would be the best. There are many other provisions in this bill, but I want to touch on one, which is family reunification. Under this bill, we're going to set aside what has been a bad idea for a long time. People who, just because of our bureaucracy, often wait for family reunification with Americans, with green card or fully naturalized citizens, often wait for many years to be reunited. Under this bill, I believe broadly supported, we're going to change that. We're going to make it to where after 1 year, if there are no other impediments to their coming, they may wait with their families here for final status. We believe that this is the best a solution to a problem where we have had pervasive slowness in the process, and it's to the detriment of families being together. So although there will be additional comments, and I intend on making additional comments, I want to close simply by saying one thing. I was an employer. I knew that in fact technology and people who could apply it allowed my company to compete globally. I knew that in fact there were never enough of those people. I always had an open to hire if I found a smart engineer or a smart scientist. Mr. Speaker, we can only gain by asking as many people who are smart and who create opportunities far beyond just their own to be part of our society. It's smart in business, it's smart in America, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
And I want to begin by pointing out that it's rarely the same poison pill that defeated this bill on suspension is now being brought up again with the same poison pill that pits immigrant and minority communities against one another and makes the legislation, therefore, unworkable. Rather than simply creating green cards for STEM graduates, the majority insists that we must pay for the new visas by completely eliminating diversity visas, a long-standing legal immigration program. The elimination of the diversity visa program will drastically reduce immigration from African nations because immigrants from Africa normally comprise half the diversity visas program annual beneficiaries. Rather than reaching out to minority and immigrant communities, the majority is for some reason steamrolling through a bill that we otherwise agree with that cuts visas for minorities and signals their continued support for a Grover Norquist-style no new green cards pledge that says you can't create a green card for one person without taking it away from someone else. And even worse, it's shamefully designed to reduce the overall level of legal immigration. Under the current law, unused visas in one immigration category roll over to immigrants in other categories who are stuck in decades-long green card backlogs. But H.R. 6429 doesn't do this, thereby ensuring that unused visas are wasted and legal immigrants must continue to suffer in long backlogs. This is a naked attempt to satisfy anti-immigrant groups that have long lobbied for reduced levels of legal immigration. If this is a new strategy on immigration, it sure looks a lot like the old one. A zero-sum rule means our immigration system can never be fixed. We would not be able to craft solutions for the dreamers who were brought here as children, or for the agricultural workers growing the food on our tables, or for American families whose loved ones are stuck in decades-long green card backlogs. And so we're not fooled by the majority's assertion that this latest version of the bill actually helps families. In reality, the provision that the majority touts is a step backwards from the Life Act enacted under a Republican Congress in 2000. Under that act, undocumented spouses and children of lawful permanent residents were able to obtain visas and eventually adjust their status to lawful permanent residents. The bill offered such family members protection from removal and explicitly granted work authorization. In contrast, the provision that my colleagues herald this morning is helping families grant certain spouses and children who have already waited abroad for over a year temporary visas. There is no work authorization, and undocumented family members would be excluded altogether from participating in this program. And so while the majority bill provides permanent green cards for businesses, it provides nuclear families with nothing more than temporary visas without work authorization, and then only after a one-year separation. And to undocumented children and spouses of lawful permanent residents, the bill offers nothing at all. And so I regret that this legislation was brought to the floor without any committee process, without any opportunity for amendment, and without any input from those on this side of the aisle. And so I hope that in the coming Congress, the majority will cast aside this political theater and join me in the hard work of finding workable bipartisan solutions to fix our immigration system. Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, to my colleague from Michigan, 1990 is a long-standing part of our 236-year history. 1990 is a long part of 236 years, and 55,000 out of 1 million immigrant visas is a large part. I think on this side of the aisle we know better. We know that, in fact, this is a relatively recent provision, the 55,000 diversity visa, and clearly America continues to be the most generous nation on earth when it comes to welcoming people to our country. And with that, I recognize my colleague and classmate coming to Congress, the distinguished gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Flake, a co-sponsor of the bill.
Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I appreciate this bill coming up. This has been long, long overdue. Many of us have been working on this issue for years. Several years ago, when I first got to Congress, I met with some CEOs of major tech corporations who told me that they have to follow the talent wherever it goes. Some 65% of PhD graduates in the STEM fields actually are foreign-born. They come, are educated here, and then return home or return somewhere else to compete against us. We ought to be rolling out the red carpet for them to stay. In fact, what I was told is we should staple a green card to their diploma. And so I introduced 3 Congresses ago, and every Congress since then, the Staple Act, which would do essentially that. Basically, get rid of the quotas that we have on those who come here, are educated in our universities, and receive PhDs in the STEM fields. This legislation is similar in that respect to the Staple Act, and I support it. There's no reason we ought to force those to return home or elsewhere who are willing to stay here and create jobs. We ought to roll out the red carpet, as I say. We ought to staple a green card to their diploma and welcome them here and have them create jobs. That's why I'm glad that this legislation is before us. I support it and urge my colleagues to do so as well. Yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased now to recognize the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee, who represents the place where many of these texts come from, Silicon Valley, Ms. Zolofgren, for 5 minutes.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I have long been a champion of creating a green card program for foreign students with advanced STEM degrees from America's great research universities. Coming from Silicon Valley, I'm fortunate enough to see firsthand the new technologies, the new companies, the new jobs that such innovators create every day in the district I represent. There's no question that a STEM green card program is the right thing to do for our country. For that reason, it pains me greatly to say I can't support this flawed bill. I can't support a bill that pits immigrant communities against each other, that sets a terrible precedent for addressing our broken immigration system that is indefensibly designed to reduce immigration while purporting to increase it, and that harms American workers. I certainly admire the gentleman from Arizona on his Staple Act. I know that he has pushed for this over the Congresses, but his Staple Act did not eliminate the diversity visa program as this does. Our colleagues say on the other side of the aisle that a STEM visa program is critical to the future of this country, and I agree, but if that's true, why poison the bill with an unrelated provision to eliminate the diversity visa program? There's no reason that giving a green card to one person should mean taking one away from someone else, but this is exactly what the bill asks us to do. My colleagues are fond of saying they support legal immigration, but this bill shows quite the opposite. Supporters of legal immigration would not have to kill one immigration program to benefit another, nor would they agree to a Grover Norquist-style no new immigration pledge that will continue to strangle our immigration system for years to come. If we were to accept a zero-sum premise, how could we craft meaningful solutions for farmers and agricultural workers, for dreamers who were brought here as children, or for those families with loved ones waiting abroad in decades-long queues? This bill, however, is even worse than that. It is actually designed to reduce legal immigration. Taking 55,000 green cards from one category and putting them in another may seem like an even trade, but it is not if the new category is drafted to ensure that green cards go unused. According to the National Science Foundation, American universities currently graduate about 30,000 foreign students with degrees that would qualify them for green cards under this bill. Assuming every single one of them wanted to stay and could find an employer willing to offer them a permanent job, which is certainly not the case, that would still leave 25,000 green cards unused. This bill shamefully prevents those green cards from being used to help other employment and family-based immigrants suffering in long backlogs. And I would note that those who have their labor certification based on a Bachelor of Science degree, if you're born in India, you're facing a 70-year wait, and yet this bill would not allow the traditional policy of having visas down when they are unused. That's not the way the immigration system works, and I believe the only reason the bill was written in this fashion is to satisfy anti-immigrant organizations who have long lobbied for reduced levels of legal immigration. In an attempt to appear more pro-immigrant, the authors point to a new family-friendly provision, but looks can be deceiving. Currently, a lack of green cards means that a category of family-based immigrants, the spouses and minor children of U.S. permanent residents, have to wait about 2 years overseas before they can rejoin their families. Instead of providing critical green cards to these nuclear families, the STEM bill offers temporary V visas with 3 significant catches. The family members must first spend at least 1 year overseas. Unlike the original V visa, created by a Republican Congress in 2000, the new visas prohibit family members already here from participating, and unlike the original V visa, recipients are prohibited from working. All the talk about moving forward on immigration, well, this is a step back from where Republicans were just 12 years ago. When I hear allegations of fraud in this program, I just have to say that is absurd. In the year 2007, the General Accountability Office found no documented evidence that diversity visa immigrants pose a terrorist or other threat. The visa DV recipients go through the same immigration, criminal, and national security background checks that everyone goes through when they seek lawful permanent residence. And in fact, I would ask the gentleman for an additional 3 minutes.
I grant the gentlelady an additional minute.
The gentlelady is recognized for an additional minute.
In fact, the State Department was the first to use facial recognition technology to reduce fraud. Finally, I would say that this does not do enough to protect workers. I'll give you an example. Computer and information scientists, research scientists, in level 1 for labor certification may be paid $86,736. That's what is in a labor cert. But their median income in Silicon Valley is $133,000. So we have an idea that we shouldn't underpay the foreign scientists. We should pay them the same as Americans. This bill fails in that way. Finally, I would note that the Competitive Enterprise Institute has come out against this bill because it has these extraneous and divisive provisions. We need to move beyond the politics of zero-sum immigration. Those policies are holding America back. They are holding our prosperity hostage. I would ask unanimous consent to place into the record the Competitive Enterprise Institute letter in opposition to this bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Without objection, so ordered. Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be placing in the record information from London's U.S. Embassy, or the UK's U.S. Embassy, as current enough actually to include condolences for deaths in Benghazi on the same page as it says diversity visa fraud warning. I also will be including a press release from the Embassy of the United States in Dublin, Ireland, that starts off by saying, U.S. Embassy Dublin issues caution about diversity visa email scams and other information to show the pervasiveness of this fraud. And with that, I yield 3 minutes. I yield 3 minutes to the distinguished incoming chairman of the full Committee on Foreign Affairs and a longtime expert on this subject, Mr. Royce.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this STEM Jobs Act. Clearly, the focus on this provision is to try to bring people with skills here to the United States. Graduates of American universities in science and in technology and engineering and math, these STEM fields, are frankly behind many of the innovations, many of the new businesses that are part of our present and future economic growth. If we want to look at jobs, this is where those new patents, those new ideas will come from that help create jobs. So we have talented students from around the world that contribute to the graduate STEM programs of our universities. We are trying to focus on a way to make sure our immigration system here puts our interests first as a country. We have the most generous level of legal immigration in the world. But when you think about it, we select only 5% of our immigrants based on the skills and education that they bring to America. And clearly what we're trying to do is to make certain that these foreign graduates of U.S. universities in the STEM fields, because they're in such great demand here, many of them, of course, end up on years-long green card waiting lists, and as a result, many of them give up and go to work for one of our global competitors. And so our focus is, what could we do to accelerate this? This bill alters our current immigration system to encourage job creation by increasing the proportion of new entrants with high levels of education, with high levels of skills. We know that skilled immigrants contribute mightily to the rising U.S. standard of living. They bring capital, as I say, they bring new ideas, they produce new companies here. So with this bill, we can help grow innovation, we create the jobs in this country. We've got plenty of examples, frankly, in California of IT firms that are founded by immigrants from China and from India that were educated here in our institutions. And so the legislation also contains this family reunification provision, which allows graduate spouses and children to live in the U.S. while waiting for their green card application to be processed. One of the things that seems pretty clear to me is because we roll over the green cards every year for the next 4 years to make sure that they all are used, that in point of fact, we believe that more of them will be used than under the diversity lottery where they're not rolled over. So I think it's quite the opposite. I think we in fact focus here on exactly the type of skilled immigration that's most likely to create jobs here in the United States. So I would urge my colleagues to support this bill in order to help our economy grow. And I will yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to yield to Ms. Lofgren 30 seconds.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
I just want to address the fraud warning issue. This was a warning to applicants not to be scammed. It wasn't a warning that there was fraud. The idea that you would try as a terrorist to come in, to be in a pool of 20 million people, it's been that high, and be in a lottery that only awards 55,000 is almost as absurd as the terror baby suggestion of a few years ago. I would just note that the rollover of visas actually is so restrictive that you only roll over if you apply that year. This will not even cure the backlog. It is a fraud.
Time has expired.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield to the senior member of the House Judiciary Committee, SHEILA Jackson Lee of Texas, 5 minutes.
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the distinguished gentleman. I think the difference with my friends on the other side of the aisle is their lack of recollecting that America has always viewed immigration as good. In fact, I heard a very potent story this morning about the restoring of the Statue of Liberty, that so many of us as children have had the opportunity to climb to the very top and be reminded of the welcoming of the huddled poor. That's what this debate is all about, Mr. Speaker. Just for a moment, I want to thank the chairman for yielding to me, and I just want to deviate for a moment in this time of economic tension just to remind people that tomorrow's World AIDS Day, and I want to congratulate the Thomas Street Clinic in my district, remind people that 25 million people have died since 1981, and I just wanted to acknowledge those individuals as we begin this very important debate. But we are respectful of immigrants, and even in the Democratic caucus, and I would imagine in the conference, my good friend who is now managing had an immigrant history. Yesterday we elected a son of immigrants to be the vice chair of the Democratic caucus. He told a very potent story about his grandfather coming here to the United States of America. I can assure you that he did not come with massive degrees, but he built a foundation for his country and for his family. Now, I am very much in support of the STEM process and premise, which is to give opportunity to those who have studied in our universities, research institutions. Why wouldn't I? Having had children who've had the opportunity to attend some of the best institutions in this country, having had my children meet some of those very students from Harvard to the University of North Carolina and Duke, I'm well aware of the importance of this. But I would raise the question of whether or not we can judge the diversity visas, where people have come from places like Bangladesh and Uzbekistan, Germany, Ethiopia, one of our strongest allies in Africa, Liberia, with an African woman as president, the first on that continent, South Africa. Or maybe we would choose to ignore our friends in Israel, where diversity visas were received, or Albania, where we went to war to ensure the integrity and the saving of those people, or Hungary or Iceland, or maybe our strong ally Turkey. That's what diversity visas represent. And there's no reason to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. In fact, if my friends would really pay attention to the recent charge of the November 6th election, they would know that what America needs is comprehensive immigration reform. And if I might, in this debate of deficit reduction and the need for increased revenue, we know that if you had comprehensive immigration reform over 10 years, you'd introduce into the economy $1.5 trillion. That's a reason to come to the floor right now and vote this bill down and start in the next week and put on the floor the bills that Luis Gutierrez and myself and Zoe Laffer, John Conyers, and many others. At one time, Senator McCain wanted to put on the floor of the Senate and the House. My concern is that we tried to come in a bipartisan manner. I introduced legislation, an amendment rather, in the markup to say that let's study this issue of fraud with the diversity visas. Let's assess whether it is, because we have evidence that, in fact, the alleged fraud was because of a computer error, not the people who are applying. 15 million have applied, only 50,000 have been able to get the diversity visa. And those, some of them are African immigrants, 50% of them, but they equal only 1% of the legal permanent residents. This whole question of terrorism just troubles me. I went to the Rules Committee in a spirit of bipartisanship to say eliminate the provision on diversity visas. We can then support you. Keep the underlying premise of this legislation. I even asked that the rollover be extended because there's no evidence that you can get $55,000 spent in 4 years. If you're serious about creating jobs, I'm serious about creating jobs. My colleagues are serious about creating jobs. But I am disappointed that we would classify the diversity visa as ne'er-do-wells, people we don't want. Because I will tell you that America was built on the ne'er-do-wells. Maybe those of us who came as slaves, or indentured servants who came in the late 1800s with not any money in their pocket, but who were determined to serve this nation. I'm recalled by the story of my colleague that his grandfather served in World War I.
An additional minute.
I thank the distinguished gentleman.
Ask for an additional 1 minute.
My colleague's grandfather served in World War I. As soon as he got here, he was willing to shed his blood for this country. I am on Homeland Security, Mr. Speaker. I would not want to jeopardize 1 inch of this nation's security. But I can assure you, if we look to 9/11, there was no one there with a diversity visa. The terrorists had student visas, and they were overstays. Former Congressman Bruce Morrison, who introduced this, said that diversity visas are at the heart of the definition of American. As my friend and colleague, Congresswoman Loughran, said, who that was a terrorist would want to stand in line and provide all of the information that they needed to provide to get a diversity visa? Might I ask unanimous consent, Mr. Speaker, to introduce into the record a letter from the Archbishop of Los Angeles, chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, who absolutely opposes a church that believes in the Beatitudes, as we all do. Ask unanimous consent to introduce this record, into record. I write to oppose H.R. 6429.
Without objection, so ordered.
And so, the Catholic Church does not want terrorists. I can only say...
Gentlelady's time has expired.
30 seconds, Mr. Chairman.
30 additional seconds.
Gentlelady's recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
I can only say the Catholic Church does not want terrorists to roam this nation. And if we look closely at this allegation of fraud, and we will find computer error, we will find that the decades of diversity visa as they were introduced with Bruce Morrison, that we will find that this is not the cause of any cancer of terrorism. If we go into our hearts, we'll know that diversity visas reflects the language written so eloquently by the poet for the Statue of Liberty, and that is to bring our huddled poor. Those are the great Americans.
Gentlelady.
And I can assure you that in my constituency, Mr. Chairman, the diverse 18th Congressional District in the city of Houston, they reflect what America is. They're building the jobs. I ask my colleagues to oppose this and let us get back to drawing board for a comprehensive immigration reform. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Correcting the record seems to be an important thing here, so I want to note that earlier the minority said that there was no GAO study. Well, I beg to differ. September 2012, entitled Border Security Report to Congress on its request, on page 19. I'll include this for the record. Because the program does not require the U.S.-based petitioner, it is particularly susceptible to fraud. Diversity visa fraud is rampant in parts of South Asia, Africa, Eastern Europe, and is particularly acute in areas where few individuals have independent access to the internet. I'll place that in the record to set the record straight. And the gentlelady from Houston mentioned in depth the question of diversity. Mr. Speaker, 55,000 and perhaps more in the future STEM graduates will bring diversity of employment. The highest levels of unemployment in America are in the African community and other African-American community and other minority communities. That's the diversity we need to work on. The diversity of unemployment needs to be turned around. That's what the STEM bill is about, is helping employ Americans. And I now yield 4 minutes to one of the hardest working and most distinguished members when it comes to immigration reform, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Diaz-Balart.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first thank Mr. Issa. And I applaud the Republican leadership for bringing this important bill to the floor. I think it's important that we bring down the decibels and that we talk about facts. You know, this is an issue that where passions are very high, but I think it's important to bring down the decibels a little bit and speak about some facts. Look, we know that America is home to some of the best universities on the planet, and because of that, people from around the world, students from around the world, young people from around the world come to study in our universities. And then, unfortunately, when they're done, we, in essence, show them the door out, and they have to leave the country. And they leave the country then and become the best, the toughest competitors to American enterprise.
They create jobs elsewhere, not in the United States. Talking about outsourcing, this is the mother of all outsourcing. So what does this bill do? It tries to solve that issue. It tries to keep those individuals here. Those are the facts. Now, I know that I would like to see a larger number of that. And I think all of us should be talking about maybe we can expand those numbers. And that, I think, would be a wonderful debate to have. Now, not only does this bill do that, it also promotes a smarter immigration system that helps maintain our competitive edge, but it also helps keep families together. You know, ensuring that spouses and minor children remain together is simply the right thing to do, is it not? Is that not something that is a compassionate principle of the vast majority of the members of the House? Keeping families together? Of course it is. This bill helps to do that. And Mr. Speaker, we've heard a lot of blame on this issue on the floor today, and frankly, for years, and on immigration reform. And everybody knows my position on immigration reform. It has been talked about for years with a lot of inflammatory rhetoric, and I will tell you, from Republicans and Democrats alike. The reality is that both sides are to blame for the broken immigration system that we currently have, and both sides need to come together, finally, lowering the rhetoric, to find lasting, permanent solutions. This bill is an important step in the right direction. It helps address and fix a very important part of the broken immigration system. It does not, Mr. Speaker, solve all the problems. It is not the panacea. It does not solve all the problems, but it takes a huge step in an area that we've been talking about in the House here for years, and both Republicans and Democrats have failed to deal with. This bill deals with that important part. So I'm glad this legislation is finally being considered by this body. I commend the House leadership for their commitment to this issue. And I look forward, Mr. Speaker, to continue to bring other issues to fix our grossly broken immigration system that is broken from A to Z. I look forward to bringing other issues. But in order to do so, Mr. Speaker, we need to lower the decibels. We need to talk about the facts. We need to come up. The American people want us to finally fix this issue. They want us to come up with real solutions. As I mentioned before, nobody's claiming that this fixes everything, but it's a step in the right direction. It fixes a part of the problem. I look forward to working with my colleagues on the Democratic side and my Republican colleagues on other such fixes. But I commend this House. I commend Mr. Issa. I commend the Republican leadership for taking an important step forward. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Speaker, no one's worked harder on this issue than Mr. Gutierrez, the gentleman from Illinois. I'm pleased to recognize him for 3 minutes.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 3 minutes.
We've heard about how important STEM visas are, and we don't want to debate the point. They're important. That's why when we have the real immigration debate, the debate that will result in the signature of the president, the debate that starts in January when Congress is sworn in, that's why we will have STEM visas in that bill. So everyone agrees STEM visas are important, and if you didn't know this before the last election, I hope you know it now. The American people want us to fix our immigration system. But the more important message I got from the election is that American people say that we can solve the immigration issue. If Republicans and Democrats work together, put aside bitterness, come to the table in an honest manner. It's not enough to talk about lowering the rhetoric, an honest manner, a transparent manner. We can solve the tough problems of immigration and make it at the top of our list. We need to approach immigration as a faucet of America's past, present, and future, and solve the problems we have with our current immigration mess like adults, honestly and openly and in a bipartisan manner. We need to stop scoring cheap political points and playing games with immigration and start working together, not bringing bills without ever discussing and negotiating with the other side of the aisle. That's not the way you get comprehensive. Which is why It is so disappointing that the majority has decided to undermine an area of bipartisan agreement on STEM visas by loading up the measure with provisions that are a slap in the face to the core values and the rich tradition of immigrants to the United States of America. If you support this bill, you're saying that one group of immigrants is better than another, that one type of educated, degree-holding persons and their work is more important than others. In order to give visas to those with PhDs and master's degrees, Republicans make two demands. First, we take away visas and the only means of legal immigration from 50,000 people who may not have PhDs or master's degree. Talk about picking winners and losers. My dad, if he had been an immigrant from Ireland or Nigeria or Taiwan, would have been told, nope, America's not for you under this bill, Mr. Gutierrez. It's like when we used to say, hanging up signs in America, help wanted, Irish need not apply, which are part of the diversity program today that they want to kill. The second thing this bill requires is that we treat the families of those with PhDs and master's degree differently than we treat the families of those who don't have doctorates. If you have a master's or a PhD, we say, please come to America. Bring your wife, bring your husband, bring your kids. We'll give them all permission to work. Automatic work permits for spouses, no waiting for STEM degree holders. But if you don't have a PhD or a master's degree, we're going to take away your wife's ability to work legally. We may let her in 6 months earlier.
I yield the gentleman 30 additional seconds.
Thank you.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
It's so as they said to my father, let's check your education record, Mr. Gutierrez. Oh, no doctor before your name? No fancy initials, Mr. Gutierrez, after your name? Well, Mrs. Gutierrez and the kids stay home. You can't work. That is not America. There was no special line for PhDs and master's degree holders on Ellis Island. There was no asterisk on the Statue of Liberty that said IQ must be there and a higher standard. They are saying my father, and I resent it. My father was too stupid to make it, but he put 2 kids through college and 1 in the House of Representatives.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I might note for the gentleman that, in fact, there are more than 12,000 African students studying in STEM fields here in the United States at the advanced level, and almost 1,500 Nigerian-specific students alone getting graduate-level degrees in STEM fields in America at this time. And with that, I recognize the gentleman from Iowa, a member of the Immigration Subcommittee, for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman from California for yielding to me. And I'd point out, Mr. Speaker, that I have served on the Immigration Subcommittee for 10 years. In that period of time, I've sat in on dozens and scores and perhaps hundreds of hearings during that period of time and gathered information and a knowledge base on these issues. I walked into this issue as a freshman member of Congress 10 years ago with this statement: the immigration policy that we have in this country needs to be designed to enhance the economic, the social, and the cultural well-being of the United States of America. In fact, every country's immigration policy should fit that standard. We can have debates about the definitions of those 3 words that are part of that direction. But what's going on here is eliminating a really foolish policy that we had, and I have long been for the repeal of the visa diversity lottery program, and I have long been for setting up a system so that we can promote the economic, social, and cultural well-being of the United States through our policies. In some of the information in hearings, we only control with our immigration policy, depending on whose numbers you want to look at, between 7 and 11% of the legal immigrants coming into this country are on merit.
I yield the gentleman an additional 15 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for 15 seconds.
I thank the gentleman. We only control between 7 and 11% of the legal immigration into this country on merit. The rest of that doesn't have anything to do with the merits and how they contribute to the U.S. This bill does do that. I support 6429. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of it, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased now to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from New York who's worked on this issue, Congressman Jose Serrano.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 3 minutes. Without objection, so ordered.
I thank the gentleman. Let's understand what is happening here today. This bill doesn't increase available visas. It merely transfers them from one program to another. But it eliminates a diversity visa program that allows people from all over the world to come here. And, you know, sometimes I wish I could be not only a member of this party, but an advisor to that party, to tell them that they miss opportunities. Here they have the first immigration statement that they can make after the people spoke November 6th. And what do? They destroy a great program because they just can't help themselves. What we need is not a piecemeal approach. What we need is not to say that we will only take certain people with college degrees and with doctor in front of their names, and the rest we will reduce those visas. No, what we need is to say that we have an immigration issue in this country. We have 11 million people who are in this country, who want to stay in this country, who do a lot for this country, and rather than be dealing with this approach today, we should be seriously speaking about comprehensive immigration reform. To say to those 11 million people, we understand who you are. We understand, and we're going to help you to speak English. We understand who you are. We're going to make sure you've paid your taxes. We're going to make sure that you're applying to be part of this country and you haven't broken the law. But if you came here to work, and if you came here with children, and if you came here with your parents a long time ago, we want you to stay. That was clear. If there was any analysis that came from November 6th, that the people in this country, the American people, want comprehensive immigration reform. That is what we need to do, not a piecemeal approach that pits one group of people against the other. If this is an indication of what's coming as people evolve on the issue, as we're hearing on the talk shows, that they're evolving on the issue of immigration, and if this is evolving, we're in deep trouble again.
The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Madam Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has agreed to S.Res. 604 relative to the death of the Honorable Warren B. Rudman, former United States Senator for the state of New Hampshire. Thank you.
Gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, it is now my honor to ask to yield 1 minute to my distinguished colleague from the state of Virginia, the Majority Leader of the House, and a strong advocate for this and other immigration reform, Mr. Cantor.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from California. Mr. Speaker, we all agree that getting our economy moving again needs to be our top priority. But jobs will not take off until American businesses have the workers they need to drive innovation and growth. And the immigrants who come to this country for school and for work have always been key players in driving our nation's economy. Unfortunately, current immigration policies are preventing American businesses from hiring foreign students who earn advanced degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math from our best universities. From growing startups to U.S. multinationals, American employers are desperate for qualified STEM workers, no matter where they're from. Microsoft, for example, has over 6,000 job openings waiting to be filled by scientists, researchers, engineers, and developers. For now, these openings and many others will remain vacant because too few American students are graduating with STEM degrees, and foreign STEM graduates can't get the visas they need. Every year, the U.S. invests in educating thousands of foreign students in STEM fields at our top universities, only to send them back to compete against us. Chairman Lamar Smith, along with Congressman Raul Labrador, Congressman Bob Goodlatte, and of course the Chairman from California, Mr. Issa, have all been working on this, and we've now put forward the measure before us to spur job creation by providing a pathway for American-educated foreign graduates with advanced STEM degrees to work here and contribute to our economy. The bill also keeps immigrant families together by letting the husbands, wives, and minor children of immigrant workers wait in the U.S. with their families for their green cards. The STEM Jobs Act reallocates existing visas currently distributed through a random lottery and directs them instead to the highly skilled foreign graduates of U.S. universities who have enormous potential to help grow our economy, our top priority. The Partnership for a New American Economy found that every immigrant with an advanced STEM degree working for a U.S. company creates about 3 new American jobs. And 1/4 of all STEM-focused companies in the U.S. count at least 1 immigrant as a founder. At American multinationals like Qualcomm, Merck, GE, and Cisco, immigrants filed up to 72% of the patents filed, giving those businesses a competitive edge and helping them expand and create jobs here at home. Our commitment to foreign STEM graduates is a commitment to American job creation. Foreign students are drawn to our shores by our world-class universities, and they want to stay because they know in America there is immense opportunity. We need to bet on students who bet on America. We are a nation that was built by people who risked everything for the promise of opportunity, and we must continue to be that nation. We must make sure that U.S. companies can hire the top foreign talent we're educating, instead of sending those graduates into a bureaucratic maze or worse to our competitors. This is a common sense solution that should have bipartisan support. Let's pass the STEM Jobs Act to make sure diplomas come with green cards, not a spot on a government waiting list. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield to the distinguished gentleman from Georgia, a member of Judiciary Committee, Mr. Johnson, 3 minutes.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deeply embedded in this legislation is a poison pill, and for that reason and others, I rise in opposition to H.R. 6429. It eliminates the diversity immigrant visa program while failing to address the broader problems of the immigration system. Highly skilled immigrants contribute much to the U.S. economy through new businesses and jobs. Indeed, STEM visas should be the cornerstone of a 21st century immigration system that meets our economic needs. But the STEM Jobs Act unnecessarily eliminates the Diversity Immigrant Visa Program, which provides 55,000 visas annually to immigrants who are underrepresented in the U.S. immigration system. Because roughly half of these immigrants are blacks from Africa, eliminating these visas disproportionately affects them. African immigrants are also disadvantaged by a system that perpetuates their exclusion. For instance, Africans are unable to take advantage of immigrant visas issued in the family preference category because few Africans have existing family ties in the United States. Eliminating the diversity visa program harms America's diversity, which is both important and necessary. It's alarming that Republican supporters of this bill view immigration as a zero-sum game where we can only grant STEM visas by eliminating diversity visas. That is racist, if not in its intent, then certainly in its effect. Republicans have received or just received historically low votes from minorities in the past election, yet they want to create an immigration system that gives visas with one hand while taking visas away from minorities with the other. H.R. 6429 fixes one problem while creating others, undermining a program that is critical to our nation's diversity. It is a Trojan horse, and the ugly head of racism will rear its ugly head if this Trojan horse, H.R. 6429, becomes law. What America needs is an immigration system that creates opportunities for new Americans, unites families, and provides for a robust system for enforcement. Because this bill fails to address these larger challenges while eliminating an important program for enhancing diversity, I plan to vote against it, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Speaker, I would inquire if the gentleman's statement about the ugly head of racism was a reference to those of us who authored this bill.
Chair will not render an advisory opinion.
Yes,
I would yield the gentleman
response,
10 seconds.
I'm not accusing anybody of racism. I don't know what is in the head of those who support this bill, but if it's not racist in its intent, it's certainly racist in its effect.
Gentleman's
Mr.
time has
Speaker,
expired.
as I previously said, more than 12,000 African citizens will be eligible under this today. More than 1,500 Nigerian citizens will be eligible under this today. And out of 1 million people that get to come to this country today, it's amazing that a program so fraught with fraud and recognized for fraud would somehow not be the logical place to expand the merit-based opportunity. Mr. Speaker, as a point of personal privilege, I must tell you, I went to college with a lot of people from around the world, and they were very diverse, and the grad students were very diverse. And I'm personally insulted that anyone would use even loosely the term of racism as part of a statement related to merit-based advanced degrees. I've been at university graduations. The people graduating and walking across the aisle are extremely diverse, And I believe the gentleman needs to go to a few college graduations and see master's and PhD candidates if he's going to refer to this in any way as racist. And with that, I'd like to recognize the distinguished member from Pennsylvania and yield him 2 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this legislation, the STEM Jobs Act. This is a bill which will provide much-needed employment-based immigration reform and will help position our economy for success in the 21st century. The STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and math must be encouraged in our own schools as well as in the new populations of innovators who want to participate in our economy. These high-tech jobs help support many middle-class communities that are the bedrock of the American community, including the communities of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where I hail from. While we continue to encourage STEM education here at home, we must also welcome those who earned an advanced degree in a STEM field from an American university and who want to be part of our economy, while still protecting American workers. And that is exactly what the STEM Jobs Act accomplishes. As we engage these high-tech innovators in our economy, the STEM Jobs Act also rightly recognizes the need to support and to prioritize families. The pro-family expansion of the non-immigrant visa program within this bill is an important element of a fair immigration system. And so the STEM Jobs Act appropriately prioritizes jobs and families. It's a very good bill. It's a fair bill for the 21st century. I encourage my colleagues to support it, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to yield 30 seconds to Zolofka.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important that we have the facts from the National Science Foundation on immigration from Africa. There are about, according to NSF, 13,000 students from Africa. The vast majority of them are bachelor degree candidates not eligible for visas under this bill. And the vast majority of those in graduate school are not in STEM fields, again, not eligible for visas under this bill. And I thank the gentleman for yielding.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to yield to Mr. Connolly of Virginia, 3 minutes.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague, my friend from Michigan. Mr. Speaker, this is the second time this bill has been brought before this House for consideration. So it's clear my Republican friends recognize the urgency for expanding the number of visas for high-skilled workers, particularly students with STEM graduate degrees, a worthy goal. Yet rather than simply increase the number of those visas, my Republican colleagues once again are presenting us with a false choice. Just like the previous bill, which failed, this one deceptively expands the number of STEM visas, but only at the expense of the successful diversity visa program, which has been the primary pathway used by generations of immigrants in American history. This bill not only eliminates that program, but it would also reduce the total number of available visas by preventing unused slots from rolling over to be transferred to another visa program. That just shows my colleagues still haven't gotten it from the recent election, in which immigrants and minorities played a growing role, and it casts doubt on whether we're going to be able to come together to achieve meaningful immigration reform, frankly, with that attitude. The business community, particularly the high-tech employers in my district in Northern Virginia, they get it about the need to expand the STEM program. But here again, this bill fails the reasonability test by creating a new process in which employers have to file an application with the state or federal government to certify that issuing that STEM visa is in the national interest. Talk about unnecessary regulation. And now the manager's amendment delays implementation of the bill by a year. We already know the economic benefits of expanding the high-skill visa pool, and employers have said we can't afford to wait any longer. Mr. Speaker, this does not have to be a zero-sum game. If my Republican colleagues truly want to help our employers and our economy, we could bring up a clean version of this bill, one, for example, that was introduced by our colleague Zoe Lofgren in California. Or we could bring up another bipartisan bill, the Startup 2.0 Act, which I'm proud to co-sponsor with our colleague Michael Grimm of New York. That would not only expand the number of visas for STEM graduates, but also those entrepreneurs looking to start up a business and create jobs right here in America. Here is an opportunity for us to fulfill the mandate from the election and actually compromise on something that will benefit the economy. This bill, sadly, does not meet that test. I thank my colleague, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is persistent. According to DHS, where they study student tracking, this is their source, not mine. I will read verbatim once again for the gentlelady from California. There are more than 12,000 African students studying in STEM fields in the United States. Of course, some currently could be undergraduate. Almost 1,500 Nigerian students alone are getting a graduate-level education in STEM fields. Yes, this bill will encourage those able to go on and get graduate degrees in STEM fields to do so, because, yes, that's going to give them an opportunity. But don't we want the best and the brightest? Isn't that the goal? Isn't job creation the goal? And with that, I'd ask to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Griffin.
The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today in support of the STEMS Job Act, and I thank Chairman Smith for his leadership as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. This is a critical piece of legislation that narrowly failed to pass when the House considered it in September, and I'm very pleased that we're considering it again here today. Over the past few weeks, when I was back in my district, the job creators there in central Arkansas that I spoke with emphasized the need to once again bring this bill up. And I want to share a little bit about those conversations. First of all, Wellspun Tubular is in my district. It made the pipe for the Keystone XL pipeline. They need advanced STEM graduates to train workers. Power Technologies is a company that needs highly skilled workers to design, develop, and manufacture laser products. They say that they need this bill passed. These companies have struggled to find the specific talent they need, and this bill would help them create jobs. This is a jobs bill. I want to emphasize that this bill will not take away from American jobs. These STEM visas will be made available only for foreign graduates of U.S. universities with advanced STEM degrees, PhDs in the first instance, followed by foreign-born graduates of master's degree programs, for which we have a shortage. Companies that offer jobs to foreign STEM graduates also must have certified that there are no American workers able, willing, qualified, and available for the job. We are currently educating highly skilled PhDs and masters and sending them back home to compete against us after they graduate. Where I'm from, that's like recruiting the best football players from Texas, teaching them the Arkansas offense, and then sending them back to Texas to compete against us. That doesn't make any sense. People get that. Let's fix it. Let's pass this bill. I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recognize the gentlelady from New York, Carolyn Maloney, for 3 minutes.
Gentlelady from New York is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding and for his leadership. Mr. Speaker, in the wake of the November elections, there's been a growing consensus that it's time to undertake a comprehensive immigration reform. There are many good reform proposals out there, but unfortunately, this is not one of them. Though this bill does have some merits, those merits are more than offset by the bill's defects. One glaring problem is that this bill treats immigration as a zero-sum game. It seems to operate under the assumption that any time a door is opened to a new class of entrants, it must slam the door shut on another. This bill would totally eliminate the long-standing diversity visa program that now provides one of the few legal pathways to enter the United States. Currently, the diversity visa program only issues 50,000 visas a year, and in 2013, almost 8 million people worldwide have applied for this visa. For anyone looking to find a legal way to come to this country right now, the chances are pretty slim. The zero-sum approach of this bill reduces those chances even further. It achieves almost the opposite of what the American people have asked us to do. Fortunately, there are better bills out there, bills that address some of the core concerns, bills that are ready to go. For instance, the Attracting the Best and the Brightest Act, Zoe Lofgren's bill, H.R. 6412, would create a new green card for people with graduate degrees from U.S. research universities in the STEM disciplines. According to a recent article in the New York Times, currently we have in our country about 1 million engineers, scientists, and other highly skilled workers on H-1B temporary visas. And when these visas expire, we just send them home. We train them in the STEM disciplines with our high-tech universities, and our high-tech economy badly needs their skills. And then we just send them home. That is just absolutely crazy. The Democratic bill, H.R. 6412, would help us retain some of that valuable, highly trained talent we helped to create. The EB-6 visa would require all applicants to have an advanced degree from an accredited public or non-private university. It would provide 50,000 of these STEM visas, but it would not eliminate other visa programs that are helpful, such as the diversity visa. And there's also a bill I authored with Senator Kerry, the Startup Visa Act. Our bill would recognize the great contributions being made to our economy by these job creators, and it would establish an employment-based conditional immigrant visa. Applicants would have to be immigrant entrepreneurs seeking to establish a startup company or already have businesses in the U.S., and it would have to have sufficient financial backing. We do need more talented people going into the STEM disciplines in our economy. Let's refuse to slam the door on other immigrants. Let's vote no on this bill. Let's vote yes on the Democratic bills that provide STEM visas and provide help to our economy. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Thank you. I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Herrera Butler.
Gentlelady from Washington is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me, before I speak specifically to this bill, I think it's important to note, I know my colleagues from the other side of the aisle are decrying this bill and its immigration stances, but I would submit for your consideration, when you had control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, you did not pass immigration reform. So let's stop treating this issue like a political football. As the first Hispanic American of Hispanic descent to represent Washington State here in the United States House, I want us to tackle this issue. But let's keep the facts and not use it as a political football, because it's important to millions of Americans and millions of immigrants who want to come here. And why wouldn't you? This is a land of opportunity, and we want the best and the brightest here in the United States, creating jobs and growing our economy. Because in Southwest Washington, where I'm from, we need jobs. Today, we're here to focus on common sense solutions. And unfortunately, under the current setup, we're literally educating foreign men and women and then requiring them to go to India and China and be our competitors. Under this scenario, who wins? Well, China and India win, our competitors win. Who loses? The American worker. Because as the best and the brightest internationally want to come here and we tell them go away, go start a business to compete with our jobs, those jobs aren't going to grow in Southwest Washington. Fortunately, today we have the opportunity to change that. And then we can go on and tackle some of the other issues that my colleagues are bringing up, because they're important and they're valid. This STEM jobs bill ensures that employers are opening their doors and their job opportunities to Americans first. And if there aren't enough Americans to fill these highly skilled job openings, then we invite those foreign STEM graduates to apply. That's all this bill does. And you know, it's an important piece that's going to open up economic opportunity for the men and women that I serve and that we all serve across this great nation. You know, right now, large employers, Microsoft was mentioned, that's from my home state, they have over 6,000 jobs that they're trying to fill. And you know what? They want to fill it with American workers. If they're not able to, then I think they should have the ability to offer those options to immigrants from China and India, South America, Mexico, Africa, whoever wants to come here and be a part of the economic engine that creates opportunities. Let's open those doors. Why not? With this bill, we'll continue to educate talented people and incentive to fuel our economy, and instead of sending them home to compete with us and our workers, we'll get to grow those jobs right here. This is a compassionate bill that will drive economic innovation and create jobs. It is pro-family. It actually provides incentives to those folks, those immigrants who go about this process in the right way. They'll be able to be united with their family here in the United States because of this job, or this bill. There are safeguards. I would request an additional 20 seconds.
Gentlelady, an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady's recognized for 30 additional seconds.
This will allow them and those family members who are waiting to immigrate legally to come here and be with their mother, their father, who's here working. I mean, this has a lot of opportunities, and it also has safeguards for the American worker. Those jobs are first available to those citizens who may be able to fill the qualifications. So I'd ask my colleagues here today to support this very good bill. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole thing, but we need to take this a piece at a time, a solution at a time. And quite frankly, right now, solutions are what the American people are asking for, and this is a very good one. With that, I'll yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from Michigan.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to Zolofgren again for a minute.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to correct the record. I recall when Democrats were in the majority, we passed the DREAM Act. We only got 8 Republican votes to pass that DREAM Act. Further, the way this bill is written, if you were brought here as a baby, but now you're getting in violation of the immigration law, but now you're getting your PhD in computer science from Stanford University, you're not eligible for one of these visas. This is written in a way to divide people. It's not even an honest effort to capture the best and brightest. And further on African immigration. Last year, we had 6,218 diversity visa recipients from Nigeria, taking the chairman's number of 1,200. I don't want to get in an argument in master's and PhD in STEM fields. That's the enrollment. As you know, most PhD programs are 6-year programs. Most master's programs are 2-year programs.